Welcome back, guys, to episode 2 of our WWE 2K15 Audio Universe mode. And this is our first edition of NXT. I'm recording this a couple of hours after doing the Raw episode, which I'm hoping to upload tonight. Then NXT, I'll put it up tomorrow, and the SmackDown episode, I'll put it up on Wednesday. I'm hoping to record SmackDown after I do this episode. And so we kick off NXT with our NXT Champion, John Morrison, and his two pals, Brian Kendrick and Tyler Breeze, coming out to celebrate, the 9th month John Morrison has been NXT Champion. He's held this title since the previous year, around about, July, when Money in the Bank happened. Because that's when the previous champion, Hideo Itami, decided to leave the NXT title on NXT after winning Money in the Bank and moving up to main roster. So there was a tournament held on NXT to crown a new champion, and John Morrison would come out on top and become the new champion. And so tonight, he was in a festive mood with his pals to celebrate this momentous occasion, and his two pals felt that if he could be champion, maybe it's time they became champions as well. Of course, being NXT Tag Team Champions, and to do that they have to defeat the current champions, Rhino and Baron Corbin. And so Tyler Breeze and Brian Kendrick called out the Tag Team Champions to come and accept their challenge. But instead of the Tag Team Champions, someone else came out. Who else but Y2J, Chris Jericho, who decided to join this little party because he feels like if they're going to be offering up challenges for titles, he might as well come in and offer his own challenge for the NXT title. But he was going to get a little help from his friends, the Tag Team Champions, Baron Corbin and Rhino. So Jericho set up the challenge to John Morrison if he and his pals could defeat Chris Jericho and the Tag Team Champions in a 6-man tag team match. Tyler Breeze and Brian Kendrick would get their tag team title match. But if Chris Jericho and the Tag Team Champions defeat John Morrison and his pals, Chris Jericho gets his challenge accepted. So there you have it. Our main event has been set up. 6-man tag team match. John Morrison, Brian Kendrick, Tyler Breeze versus Chris Jericho and the current NXT Tag Team Champions, Baron Corbin and Rhino. On to our first match in the the second match in the Intercontinental Contenders tournament to find the next challenger for the title. Will go one-on-one against Randy Orton at Extreme Rules. Tonight it will be a triple threat match, again featuring former Intercontinental Champions. We've got Curtis Axel taking on the Enigma Jeff Hardy against New Day's Big E. And as you can expect, New Day was out to cheer for their pal, and that would be Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods were out to give Big E some support. Jeff Hardy wasn't alone. He came out with Matt Hardy, who would be in his corner. So Axel was the man at a disadvantage because he was solo. But this is a triple threat match, no disqualifications, no countouts. So the Hardy Boys and Axel, they teamed up to take care of New Day early on in the match, just to make sure that they wouldn't get involved. The tactic worked. Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston were out of the picture, but Curtis Axel immediately turned on the Hardy Boys, getting Jeff Hardy with the quick roll-up for the 1-2-3, and he's the next man in our Intercontinental Contenders series, joining Kurt Angle, who won the first match on Raw. This was a man who found an opportunity and took it. Curtis Axel taking advantage of the little tag team they had against the New Day to pin Jeff Hardy with a roll-up and qualify. So our second match is the second contest in the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Tournament to crown our first champions. And tonight we would have Dana Brooke and Emma taking on the team of Alexa Bliss and Summer Rae. Now this was Summer Rae and Alexa Bliss's very first match as a team, taking on Dana Brooke and Emma, who've been in tag team action before, and they brought that experience into this match to overcome Summer Rae and Alexa Bliss in less than 5 minutes. It was purely a walk in the park for them, and they move forward in this tournament, joining Layla and Michelle McCool, who won the first match on Raw. Our third match is I would call it a closed cage match. This is because this cage has a roof. You can't escape by climbing out. Only way you can win the match is either by pinfall, submission, or you walk out the door. You can't climb out. And this match was made for Mark Henry and Kevin Owens. Even in real life, I would love to see Kevin Owens and Mark Henry go one-on-one. I mean, if you're going to talk about a physical contest, really brutal match, I think these guys would be able to deliver one. And so I decided to have them in a match in our first NXT episode. And this is because they've both been unable to win the NXT Championship off of John Morrison because of Tyler Breeze and Brian Kendrick, who kept them from winning the gold. There was a lot of frustration, a lot of anger being built up between these two guys, and the general manager decided to put them in a match so they can vent all that anger between them in an environment like a steel cage, a closed steel cage. And you could expect nothing less but a fight between these two guys. There's no countouts, there's no disqualifications in a steel cage match, so that these guys could go without any restraint, without any limits, back and forth, reversal, counters, everything. And it took Kevin Owens up to the point where he had to perform that. He couldn't pick him up for the powerbomb, so he thought, maybe let me try that suplex he does off of the second rope. But Mark Henry would take advantage of that and turn things around, setting up Kevin Owens for the world's strongest slam from that second rope right back down to the ground for the 1-2-3. So Mark Henry gets his win over Kevin Owens in this cage match. But he wasn't done there. Now, not even the ref could stop him, as Mark Henry got back into the cage to deliver what I would call the world's strongest splash onto Kevin Owens as a statement to the man that he had beaten him, and he can't beat Mark Henry. Not today, not ever. And in our fourth match, we have another tag team match. This is between Los Matadores and a team I put together, Justin Gabriel and Corey Graves. I've called them G2, teaming up for the very first time here on NXT. And in their first match, despite the experience that Los Matadores have as a tag team, G2, they pulled through. They defied them and proved their critics wrong that they could work as a tag team. Corey Graves, he's had experience. He's a former NXT champion, NXT tag team champion, and he brought that into this match, and he got his team the victory in their first match as a tag team. Corey Graves and Justin Gabriel, collectively known as G2. But if you guys want to suggest an alternative name for this new tag team, you can suggest in the comment section or on Twitter. If you follow me, I'll put my handle within the description for you to follow me on Twitter. You can suggest a name for this new tag team. Then it's time for our big main event, the six-man tag team match. John Morrison teaming up with Tyler Breeze and the Brian Kendrick against Y2J, Chris Jericho, and the NXT Tag Team Champions, Baron Corbin and Rhino. And right off the bat, there was chaos before the bell could even go. By the time the ref finally got control of these six guys, Rhino had gored the champion as well as his two pals, and Chris Jericho, he took advantage of that and attempted to get John Morrison to tap out to the walls of Jericho within the first 3 minutes of the match. But Tyler Breeze coming in to save his teammate with a super kick to Chris Jericho, and the match continued from there. Now we got most of our action from the tag teams, the tag team champions, and Brian Kendrick and Tyler Breeze. John Morrison, he didn't want nothing to do with Chris Jericho, so he didn't spend a lot of time in the ring trying to keep as much distance from Chris Jericho as possible. But Y2J, he made quick work of John Morrison's tag team pals and was about to make Tyler Breeze tap out to the walls of Jericho. During that chaos, was the ref distracted, and John Morrison took advantage of that, hitting Chris Jericho over the head with the NXT title. And Tyler Breeze rolled a pin on Chris Jericho for the 1-2-3, and they got their tag team challenge accepted. Immediately, General Manager Teddy Long came out to congratulate Tyler Breeze and the Brian Kendrick for getting their challenge accepted. But he had seen what John Morrison had done, but he would leave it there because he had an alternative plan for John Morrison. He would face Chris Jericho one-on-one next week on NXT for that contendership. If Chris Jericho beats John Morrison, he will face John Morrison for the NXT Championship, either at Extreme Rules or at our NXT special. He'll decide towards those events. And just to add a little cherry on top, the general manager will be special guest referee for that match next week on NXT. And John Morrison suddenly realized that, the general manager had seen what he had done without even revealing it. And so next week, that is our main event. John Morrison, Chris Jericho, #1 contendership for Chris Jericho on the line. If he can beat John Morrison, he will get his title shot. If not, he goes to the back of the line. So that ends our first episode of NXT. Hope you guys liked it and are looking forward to episode 3, which is our first edition of SmackDown, which I'll get to work on after this episode is concluded. So look forward to it. Now, before we conclude this episode, a friend of mine, he's a fellow YouTuber. His name is Murphs YT13. That's MURFSYT13. He's a YouTuber here, and you can check out his channel. He does FIFA 15, he does UFC, and he does Match of the Week with WWE 2K15. You can check that out. Now, he had come up with an idea for my audio universe. He asked, why don't I try adding entrance themes for, like when a wrestler comes in, I introduce him and I have his theme playing in the background. And that's an idea I would love to use, but at the moment I'm doing my recordings on phone and my entrance themes are on a music player, so maybe in future when I've got a proper microphone, I'll be able to play out entrances when I announce a wrestler. But if you guys don't mind me playing entrance themes from my music player to the phone as I'm recording, although it would mean I'm having my phone in one hand and the music player in the other, and I have to check. I've got the music player here. Let me just try and play something. If you guys can hear the songs, if the sound is good, maybe I'll play entrance themes using the music player. I've got something here. Let's give this a try. Now, if you guys remember, that is CM Punk's his previous entrance theme from the one he was using before he left the Cult of Personality. So if that was clear, and if you guys want me to play entrance themes like that, I could do that from now on. You just let me know. But other than that, this concludes our first episode of NXT. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll be preparing for SmackDown, which will end our first week of Audio Universe mode. So please look forward to that. Thank you for listening to this episode. I'll see you then. Cheers.